Sol Sandoval said this: I think we have to prioritize personal responsibility, common sense, and looking out for each other. We've experienced this pandemic for 2 years, and now we have been provided with plenty of information and options, including vaccinations and testing. We know to look out for the medically vulnerable and the elderly, just as we do with other practices in our personal life. John Noffsker. John Noffsker's got morality. John Noffsker, he knows right from wrong. John Noffsker is the Rio Grande County Commissioner, District Number 2. He's been in there 3 or 4 years, and he's running for re-election against Tyler Ratzlaff, the veteran. It's the rancher versus the veteran. Now, John Noffsker, he knows right from wrong. He's got a conscience. He knows that raping and robbing and murdering and bearing false witness, these are terrible crimes. John Noffsker knows that abusing and enslaving and torturing and kidnapping and hitting are some of the worst things that one person can do to another. And it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has to obey the law. Everybody has to obey the law. And, these are good. It's not a surprise that he would be opposed to clear, terrible crimes. He's a Christian. Christians start out with the 10 Commandments and then the Golden Rule as their starting foot. They start off on the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule. The 10 Commandments, I feel like thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal. But the Golden Rule, that takes, those 2 rules to John Noffsker believes in the rule of law. So not only does he personally believe that raping and robbing and murdering and bearing false witness and, abusing, enslaving, torturing, kidnapping, and hitting are the worst crimes out here, but he also believes that nobody could do that. Everybody must obey the laws. You can't have one class of people above the law and the rest below it. So John Noffsker believes that the law should be applied to everybody all across the board. That's what he said. It needs to be applied equally to everybody all across the board. The citizens cannot rob or rape or hit or murder. They can't do any of those things, but neither can the cops or the judges or the prosecutors. The cops and the judges and the prosecutors shouldn't go around assaulting and robbing and raping and murdering either. John Noffsker, here's a difference between Tyler Ratzlaff and John Noffsker. John Noffsker is 100% okay with collecting rainwater. Tyler Ratzlaff kind of waffled a bit. He was like, I'm not sure what the, argument for the opposite side is. He wants to say yes, but until he researches what the other side says, he's going to hold out. That makes me think of nobody is allowed to sleep under a bridge. Yeah, okay, nobody's allowed to sleep under a bridge. Middle-class people don't have to worry about that law because they will never sleep under a bridge. That law is only for the poor people. Don't collect rainwater. That's a poor person tax. That's only a law against poor people. If you're having to collect rainwater, then you're not really, but it's kind of dry. It's kind of smart to actually sort of add a little bit, but apparently some of the middle and rich class don't realize how important water is to people. So John Noffsker, of course you could collect rainwater. It's legal, it's allowed, it's moral too. In order to live, you have to have water. So I'm not sure if Tyler Ratzlaff knows that or not, but I bet you Tyler Ratzlaff doesn't have to worry about water. He's never, he's a veterinarian, so doctor, he's doing well for himself. So he don't have to worry about, whether or not he's going to have a sip of water or not. But that's a human right. Water is a human right. We need water to live, even though he doesn't have to collect rainwater to live. If somebody does, it's absurd to deny anybody of the rain which falls upon them or their houses or their lawns or their trees. How are working class families supposed to survive if the rain that comes and falls on us? No, we own that. But I'm all wet and I just got, so are you going to do universal medical? No, you're not going to do that either, huh? You're going to take the water, but okay, my God, for residential housing, John Noffsker thinks it's okay. Collect all the rainwater you want. Reclaim, collect all that rainwater all you want. There's a big thing in the National Forest. I think it's absolutely absurd to deny people the rainwater, especially for residential housing. My God. John Noffsker also knows the Colorado history behind that. He says that Denver took all the Front Range, and that's why collecting rainwater was illegal, because they said all that water needed to go to Denver. And it was really the real estate developers who did it. Out of the politicians and the wealthy, it was the real estate developers. John Noffsker tries to find common ground with the folks. A big criticism of John Noffsker, and this is a point for Tyler Ratzlaff, is you got to aim for unanimous consent. There's only 3 people on the Board of Commissioners. A jury of 12 is supposed to come to an agreement. The workers at a job site have to come to some sort of agreement. Families have to come to some sort of agreement. If families are to talk to each other, unanimous consent has got to be the ideal. No shit, it's not always possible, but I definitely trust a 3-0 decision over a 2-1 split or a 2-0 split any day of the week. 2-1, 2-0, that sounds suspicious as fuck to me. Well, how come you couldn't get that other person? There's only 3 commissioners. You're supposed to, a jury of 12 is supposed to work something out. The workers at a job site and a family, and you know what, a classroom, a teacher has 30 students, they're supposed to, but you're going to tell me that 3 people can't come to some sort of unanimous consent? And so Tyler Ratzlaff, he believes in unanimous consent. That's the principle. That's the goal. That's the ideal. And maybe it just takes a little bit more talking to get to. Now, I'll just mention this. If you're some sort of Mitch McConnell filibustering piece of shit, if you're a Mitch McConnell filibustering piece of shit, well, we don't need you. We don't need you if you're a Mitch McConnell filibustering piece of shit. But if you're a good faith person and you show up to these damn board meetings or these county commissioner meetings and you mean well, you have, citizens to represent, then you should be heard. That's the whole point of having a triumvirate. Not that one is a king and the other 2 have to kiss his ass, but that all 3 are kings equally. They all have 1 vote. And unless they, I guess Survivor would just find 1 person to, and then just divide and conquer. During emergencies, maybe just go with majority. But I feel like that's a controversial decision. You only had 3 people and one of y'all didn't go along with it. How come? John Noffsker's big on the war on drugs. I'm okay with marijuana being legal. Keeping all the other crap illegal is okay for now. I wonder where he's at on marijuana. Because there seems to be these reactionaries we need to bring the war on drugs back. Like I said, I'm okay with marijuana and fuck all those other drugs. But if he's against marijuana, that's no good to me. He liked the idea of work fair. John Noffsker said that there's no legal way to do it because of liability or something. But he said back in his time, they used to, if anybody wanted a job, you could go into the government and you could, find some job and make a quick $50 to $100 for a day's work a day's job, get paid a day's wage, and then go on home. You need to get that $50 to $100. And John Noffsker says that there's no way to do that right now legally. But where there's a will, there's a way. He also said that you can't make an employer hire somebody, which I agree with that. But if the person is, got good reputation and they haven't done any, thing that makes you, then they should be allowed to work. You should have a right to work. And he also said that welfare kind of fucks over those people. He didn't say, I'm cussing. He didn't cuss. Welfare fucks over those people who need it the most, who need to bridge the gap, and it allows a lot of deadbeats to live on that bridge. So I think welfare should be there to bridge the gap, but a lot of deadbeats are living on the bridge, and so the people that need welfare to bridge the gap, there's just too many people on the bridge. They can't get it, so really the people that need welfare don't get the welfare, and the people that are living off of it, so they're kind of making a mockery of the whole thing. They're not doing what it was intended to do. John Noffsker doesn't have a war on poverty. There's no strong, progressive, bold agenda to change a bunch of things. He's a Republican. He's a conservative, so I wouldn't expect a bunch of major changes. I just feel like poverty is a major issue, and poverty isn't going to be fixed overnight, but it definitely needs attention. It needs attention, right? It needs a lot of attention. It needs somebody like a Christian, right? And aren't Christians supposed to care about the poor? And conservatives say, get to work. So the workers who are poor, that's who the Christians should love dearly. No, they're poor and they're working class. They're doing what they're supposed to do. My God, a conservative Christian should just embrace the hell out of the working poor. If you combine your conservative and your Christian nature together and you learn your Milton Friedman principles, that poor man or woman needs to get a job or start a business. In America, you have to have a job or have a business, because if you don't have any income, that means you got no money. And having no job and no business in America is a death sentence. So you got to hustle, but you can't deceive. You can't defraud people. That's stealing. So that's Milton Friedman. If we're a bunch of capitalists, we would know Milton Friedman. And we would also have a bunch of yard sales and farmers markets and flea markets. Those are capitalists too. If your corporation is set up legally, you get to profit as much as you possibly can. That's capitalism. You're the business owner. And more to come later.